That's okay with you guys. All right. And I think we're going to go ahead and get started with a little kirtan, if that's all right. Is that okay with you guys? You see the harmonium here? And we have a little special request. This is backed by popular demand by Rangavati Devi Dasi. So you'll recognize the tune when we get to it.
Wonderful.
You will. And there's Bhavananda. Let's see there's his hand in the air. Always we see Bhavananda's hand. There's no real person there. It's just a hand in the air. That's all we get. All right. Can you hear me okay? Raise your, yep, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sing with me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One more time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now we'll do the pranams. Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Devashisha Sunyavani Paschachadi Shatarane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Haribo! All right, very good, very good. Whoa, 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 whoa! I knew I was going to do that. Sorry, guys. I'm back. I think I spilled the lemon ginger tea, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm here. All right, we're going to move on, right? Okay, so we're on the 10th chapter. All right, and everybody can hear us just fine. There's no issue, right? All good, no questions so far. All right, so we're going to start reading. This is about 42 verses, so it's quite a few verses. So we're going to read through this. There's 2 or 3 verses in here that are ones that Prabhupada quotes, the Sanskrit. So we'll do the Sanskrit on those when the timing's right, okay? And but hang in there with us, and we're going to start reading now. And if you want to read next, just raise your hand. I'll read a little bit. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjun, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." What I think Krishna means is knowledge that will make our realization better from what he's already explained, because everything he said so far is perfect. So I don't know how you get better when you're perfect already, but Krishna gets better even from perfection. So text 2, neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. So one comment I thought I'd make from one of the purports I had seen earlier, Prabhupada explains that the demigods are expansions of the Lord, or creations of the Lord, or Brahma could be a jiva soul also, but they are born into the material universes. So their purpose is temporary in that universe. Okay. But what Krishna is saying here is no one knows his source, because he's the source in every respect of all of the demigods and all of the great sages that we follow in our sampradayas, so that we can understand this information. So this text is really excellent, this text 3. He who knows me as the unborn, aja is the word for unborn. He knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds. He only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Well, think about that for a second. I'll tell you what we'll do. Hey, Sunita, how you doing? Are you there? I see somebody. Everybody's coming over. There you are. How are you?
Hi,
Thank you for
doing
coming
good.
tonight. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right. So in
Thank
this
you.
particular verse, Krishna explains that he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed of all sins. So if you look down here at the bottom in the purport of that particular verse, here the Lord is described by the word aja, meaning unborn. But he is distinct from the living entities who are described in the 2nd chapter as aja also. I used to have a good devotee friend of mine, an old God brother. His name was Aja Das. So he's the servant of the Lord as the unborn. So the Lord is different from all the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but the Lord's body is unchangeable. It's never changed. Even when he comes to this material world, he comes as the same unborn person. Therefore, in the 4th chapter, it's said by the Lord, in his internal potency, it is not under the inferior material energy, but always in the superior energy. So these avatars are superior energy of the Lord. They're not subject to karma and the modes of nature and so forth like we are. So that's an important part of that verse. So I wanted to read that to you as well. So text 4 and 5, intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, nonviolence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of the living beings are created by me alone. So later in this chapter, Krishna is going to get very, very detailed about who he is, what his opulences are. But if you've ever experienced any of these things, famous people are famous because those qualities are created by Krishna. They're a spark of Krishna's splendor only, for an example. So all these various qualities of life are created by Krishna. The 7 great sages, and before them the 4 other great sages, and the Manus, the progenitors of mankind, come from me, born of my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. So when the Lord comes to the material universe, first of all, Mahavishnu takes a nap, right, in the causal ocean. on the bed, Sheshanaga. And then in each universe, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu does the same. And in each cell or each living entity, the soul, super soul or Shirodakshaya is setting right next to that soul in the heart. So the Lord is actually sending host of demigods. He's sending host of progenitors for populating the various planets. And all the living entities descend from them. So try to understand, we're in the spiritual world, and we leave the spiritual world at our free will to come to the material world to see if we can actually become God. We want to become the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful, yet humble person, right? And so we come to this material world and we try our hand at that. At some point, hopefully along the way, because of the wheel of samsara, which is birth, death, old age, disease, and death, we grow tired of this effort in the material world of our false ego to try to establish ourselves as supreme. And we finally come to the realization that we're not supreme. We are part and parcel of the supreme, an eternal spark of God. And therefore, our position is actually one of servitude, not that we're masters. We call each other Prabhu because we're identifying ourselves as servant to the master. We don't want to be the master. Listen, if you've ever been the master before, you know how difficult that can be. We can't even run one business. We can't run one country. Sometimes we can't run one family, and sometimes we can't run one life. But Krishna is running everything in all trillions of universes and in the spiritual sky. Simultaneously, these things are going on. So that's the supreme person. We are not the supreme person. We are a servant of the supreme person and attached in our relationship of yoga, bhakti yoga. So Krishna says here, one who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. So if we were actually convinced that God, we know who God is. Most people don't know who God is. We're one in millions and millions and millions of people walking up down the street. Most people don't know who God is. They don't know what he looks like. They don't know where he lives. They don't know what his name is. They don't know who his friends are. They don't know what his activities are. And so therefore, it's hard to love someone you don't know. So our job, hey, Susan, there you are. Hey, all right, good to have you. So our job is to fall back in love with God, but it's not a hard thing to do. Let me ask you a question. If you could have the most beautiful person in the whole existence of the universe, could you love that? Of course you could. We're all looking for the most beautiful person. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for the most powerful person. Could you love that person? Yes. Could you adore that person? Yes. Would they be an idol to you? Of course. If they're the most talented, the most famous, the most powerful, the most wealthy, that's what we're looking for. Krishna, he has all of those attributes in full, of which no one can be equal to or greater than, yet he is also at the same time detached. So he's not on some head trip like we find material men who become famous or women who become powerful or wealthy or famous. They get a real superior attitude, right? Because now they've achieved a little bit of this glory of God in their lives, and they've become quite proud of it. So we know that pride comes before the fall. Has anybody ever heard that statement? Pride comes before the fall. So as soon as we become proud or puffed up with our ego, and we start thinking, hey, I can do this, I can do all this, then we find ourselves in serious or grave danger in the material world, because we're bound then to create some karmic reactions that we'll suffer or enjoy, okay? So in text 8, so basically in text 7, what Krishna is saying is that if we knew about these powers of God, if we understood who God was, we would definitely engage in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there would be no doubt, because Krishna is the most attractive thing. Every day we wake up in the morning and we go out, we're attracted to things, aren't we? We're attracted to money, we're attracted to other persons, we're attracted to a job, we're attracted to some kind of service that we're offering. We're attracted to some kind of foodstuffs, we're attracted, whatever it might be, clothing, name it, scenery, house, whatever it is, we're attracted to these things, right? So when we get up, we have to understand that all of this is provided by God. And we have to be mindful of that. That's called Krishna consciousness. When you're mindful of that, then Krishna just described in a previous chapter, there's no further sin in your life because you're rightly situated. You're rightly situated on the path. You know who God is. You know what his name is. You know what his activities are. And as a result, you become more and more convinced as you hear these beautiful stories in the Bhagavad-gītā and other great literatures that tell of God's pastimes. We become enamored then. We become attracted. We become obsessed, literally, with love of God. And when we do that, that's our perfection. So otherwise, we're going to be attracted to some minor spark in the material world. And it may satisfy for a period of time, but after a while, it becomes somewhat old and hackneyed, stale, or whatever it might be, because we desire to be in a connection with the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful, yet renounced personality, and that's Krishna. So if you want that, you're going to have to go to Krishna to get it. Krishna says in text 8, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Who would be so bold to say such a thing? Right? Can any of us say, I am the source of all spiritual and material world? Of course not. We're little tiny infinitesimal sparks of that greater one God who has become diverse in many for the sake of rasa or pleasure. And that pleasure we're seeking, we can have that relationship eternally with God. But here it's a temporary, frustrating event because we always lose everything in the material world. No one's happy with that. So if you got God telling you, Krishna saying, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds, everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Now that is the actual process right there. Text 8 describes the entire process of this system of yoga. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti madva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So when Krishna says aham, that means I am, sarvasya of all. Prabhava, the source of everything, the generating source, it's all coming from me. Everything emanates from me. Pravartate. You know, and one who knows this, Matva knows this, they become devoted, bhajante. To who? Mam, to Krishna. So the Buddha, the ones who are learned, they do this with bhava samanvitaha, which means with great attention. They honor and worship the Lord as a result of knowing that Krishna is the source of all the material and spiritual worlds. Everything is emanating from Krishna. So if we know that, we have our duty to perform, which is to somehow or another come out of this darkness that we've fallen in, our forgetful state. We don't know who we are. We don't know why we're here. We don't know who put us here. We're crediting all this to our nation, to our government, to our family, to our teacher. They're all fallible soldiers. They can't protect you. Not really. Not at the time of death anyway. So what do you do with your life? Here's what you do with your life. Text 9. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. So the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, Krishna says. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Now, this is one test that you can take to see how you're advancing in your Krishna consciousness. Because the more you know about God, naturally, the more you're going to develop a love for God. So when you develop that love, you're going to enjoy meeting with the devotees. You're going to enjoy talking about the qualities, the pastimes, the forms, the incarnations of God. You're going to get fired up about that. You're going to want to do that more and more. So much so that Krishna says, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. No, there it is. It's that simple, guys. I mean, it's not very difficult, this process. We're reading a big Bhagavad-gītā, right? It's got 700 verses in it. But almost in every other verse in the Bhagavad-gītā, you can find your complete self-enlightenment without having to go anywhere else. Right here, Krishna says, to those who are constantly devoted, serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. And to show them special mercy, this is text 11, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this next verse is very, very, very important. And if you don't know the Sanskrit on this one, I'm gonna read the Sanskrit on this one. Prabhupada loves to quote this verse a lot too. And the other verse that I quoted you a moment ago, you might want to make a note of that one. I can't which one it was now, but you can go back to that on the tape. But this verse, Arjuna speaks back to Krishna after Krishna explains the things that we just heard. And Arjuna says, Arjuna uvacha, param brahma, param dhamma, pavitram paramam bhavam, purusham shashvatam divyam, adi devam ajam bibum, ahustvam rishaya sarve, devashir naradastata, asito devalo vyasa, swayam chaiva bravasi me. So this Prabhupada quotes this quite a bit. Param means the supreme. Brahma means the supreme truth. Paramdhamma means the supreme sustenance or religion or function of the soul. Pavitra means pure. Okay? So you can understand the Lord in this way. You can understand Arjuna tells him that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. Arjuna said, you are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All of the sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas confirm this truth about you, and now you are yourself declaring it to me. So when we want to know who God is, it's like if you want to know who your father is, you want to ask your mom, as your mom knows who your father is. So if you want to know who God is, you got to go to the highest person even in this universe, and that's Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is empowered by Krishna to create this universe, right? And so what does Brahma say? He says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So Ishvara means God. Who is God? Ishvara is Krishna. Lord Brahma, the Father, the creator of this universe, tells us in the first verse of his Brahma Samhita, Samhita means the song of Brahma, of Lord Brahma. He says, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He has a body that is Satchidananda Vigraha. In other words, his form is filled up with eternality, bliss, and knowledge. Okay? And he's further known as Govinda. So if there's any questions, Govinda is the name of that Supreme Personality. And so Arjuna says here that even though all of the great sages such as Narada, who is Brahma's son, Asita, Devala, Vyas, of course Vyas is an incarnation of God, who wrote the Vedic literatures, they all confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. So, very important verse. You might want to add that one to your repertoire. So then Arjuna says in text 14, O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency. O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Please tell me in detail of your divine opulences by which you pervade all these worlds. O Krishna, O Supreme Mystic, how shall I constantly think of you? How shall I know you? In what various forms are you to be remembered, O Supreme Personality of Godhead? O Janardana, again, please describe in detail the mystic power of your opulences. I am never satiated in hearing about you, for the more I hear, the more I want to taste the nectar of your words. So that's what Arjuna thinks. So let's see what Krishna has to say about that. Susan, would you mind picking up on text 19 and reading for a few and then hand it off to somebody else? Okay?
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
The Blessed Lord said, "Yes, I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations, but only of those which are prominent, O Arjuna, for my opulence is limitless. I am the Self, O Gudakesha, seated in the hearts of all creatures. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. I am Marichi of the Maruts, and among the stars, I am the moon. Of the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. Of the demigods, I am Indra. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am the living force, knowledge. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. The Yakshas and the Rakshas, I am the Lord of wealth, Kubera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni, and of the mountains, I am Meru. Pass.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was beautiful. Anybody else like to pick up a few? Anyone come back?
I can do.
Okay, please.
So what number sloka are we reading?
Text 24.
Text 24.
Do you have Gita as it is? Bhagavad-gītā as it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have
Good.
both English and Telugu version. So
Good.
it's trying to. Okay. I just opened and closed it. So so did you say 11th or sorry? What was the number?
Text 24.
24. Okay.
Yeah.
पुरोदसां च मुख्यं मां विद्धि पार्थ बृहस्पतिं सेनानीनामहं स्कन्दः सरसामस्मि सागरः. And the text I will read.
Okay. Did you find the text?
So yes.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay.
All right.
I mean, I read the slokas from my regional language, and
I love
then
that.
so because I feel comfortable reading it easily.
That's fine. No
And
problem.
the text I am reading it from the English version.
Okay.
So yeah, of priests, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Kartikeya, and of bodies of water, I am the ocean. So Indra is the chief demigod of the heavenly planets and is known as the king of the heavens. The planet on which he reigns is called Indraloka. Brihaspati is Indra's priest, and since Indra is the chief of all kings, Brihaspati is the chief of all priests. And as Indra is the chief of all kings, similarly, Skanda and Kartikeya, the son of Parvati and Lord Shiva, is the chief of all military commanders. And all bodies of water, the ocean is the greatest. These representations of Krishna only give hints of his greatness.
Very, very nice. Sunita, thank you so very much for reading for us. We appreciate that. And
Yeah,
what we're going
thank
to
you.
be doing basically is trying to read through the verses, because if we read all the purports and verses, we'll never get through this chapter tonight. We have to do it within an hour. So
Yes, I agree.
if you'd like, you can read some additional verses, if you would, maybe 3 or 4 more verses. Would you do that for us, Sunita?
Maybe next time,
Okay.
Gayatri.
All right. Well,
Actually,
you
I
did
need to
very good.
drop at this time, actually.
I got you. Well, we really
Yeah.
appreciate the Sanskrit too. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to grab some of this? That'd be text 26. Bhagavad-gītā, would you
I
like
can.
to?
This is Denise.
Oh, Denise, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you said 26.
That's correct.
Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages among the demigods, I am Narada. Of the Gandharas, I am Citraratha, and among perfected beings, I am the sage Kapila. Text 27.
Mhm.
Of horses know me to be Ukaihasrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am the monarch. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, read a couple more if you don't mind.
Okay. Text 28. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Sarabi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. Text 29. Of the many-hooded Nagas, I am Ananta. And among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors, I am Aryama. And among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the lord of death.
Okay. All right. Anybody would like to read any more? How about Stella? Are you here? Is Stella here? I think I see her.
Stella is not here. She was actually just here at the program I did, and she left.
Oh, okay, I got
I
you.
invited everybody to stay. I said, I'm getting ready to do Bhagavad-gītā, but everybody left. But yeah,
Well,
so she's-
they've already been to one program. So anybody else care to read some more? Jeremiah, you want to read some?
I can, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm going to mess up all these names.
That's okay. That's all right. You
So
mess them up.
Buckle up. All right.
Buckled up, my friend. Don't
All
worry.
right. We're on 27.
Yep.
All right.
No. We're on 30.
30. Just
Yep.
kidding. Hold on. All right. 30. Among the Dacha demons, I am the devoted Prahlada. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion, and among birds, I am Garuda. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the welders of weapons, I am Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of self. And among logicians, is that right?
Logicians.
That too. Logicians, I am the conclusive truth.
Yep.
Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I'm also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. Keep rolling, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Of the hymns in the Samaveda, I am Bharat-sama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margasirisa,
Right.
it's November through December. And of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring.
Okay. All right, very good. Rangavati or Bhavananda, could you pick it up? Go for it.
Okay, me.
Yep.
I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory. I am adventure. And I am the strength of the strong. Of the descendants of Vishnu, I am Vasudev. And of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyas. And among great thinkers, I am Ushana. Among all meanings of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. And of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence. And of the wise, I am wisdom. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existences. There is no being, moving or non-moving, that can exist without me. O mighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Know that all opulent splendor and glorious creation spring from but a spark of my splendor. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge? With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe.
Very, very good, guys. Thank you so much for going through this. Yeah, there's a lot of details in here of historic personages, principalities, demigods, incarnations. I mean, he really reveals, of course, Arjuna is conversant with all of this, that Krishna is saying. So one of the first things that the Lord explains is that I am the super soul, O Arjuna, seated in the hearts of all living entities. So God is literally the life of our life. Without God, there would be no life in us. We would have no life. So we are part and parcel. We are eternally part and parcel of the Lord. We cannot actually be separated. Although Prabhupada gives the example of a hand separated from the body can no longer serve the body. So if we separate ourselves from God, we're not serving God, then we have this material life of birth, death, old age, and disease and death that we have to suffer. So there's a lot of detail in here that we're not going to be able to get through tonight, but just try to understand that the more that you study the Vedic literatures, the more that you're going to understand who these personalities are. And many folks who've grown up in India, like Sunita and other people, I'm sure, already have studied this or grew up with this as part of their heritage. It's just like when I grew up, my grandmom was a real Christian lady. She was like a Mother Teresa. She went around and served everybody in the community. And she never spoke any words that didn't somehow or another connect back to God or something good in life. So in the same way, I grew up in a tradition, a biblical tradition. If you grew up in India, you would grow up understanding who Indra is, for example, the king of the demigods. In India, Varuna, the name Varuna, all of these names, Marichi, all of these names are there. Vyas, of course, Vyas is the incarnation of God. Veda Vyas is the one who compiled the Vedic literatures 5,000 years ago. So, and he talks about here, he is the living force or the consciousness of living beings. Man, I mean, that's so heavy. I mean, you could spend the next 50 years thinking about that and probably never realize everything you want to realize about that. Like I'm watching out the window today, there's all different bunny rabbits and birds and all different creatures, and they're going about their business perfectly well. They somehow or another know what to eat. They know when to eat. They know where to go. They know how to make a home. They know how to survive in this world. They're reproducing like we are. and they're defending themselves. You can watch them. They're always looking, you know, something's going to get them any second. Something's going to jump out of the bush and get them. But the consciousness or the living force of all of those living entities is Krishna, according to this. I am the living force in the living beings. He says of the Rudras, he's Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, the Lord of Wealth, Kuvera. And of the Vasus, he's Agni, or the fire god. And of mountains, he's Meru. So Meru mountain in the universe is the largest mountain. So Krishna's always going to be the monarch in all species. God is the monarch of all species. And what God is doing here by coming down as an avatar from the spiritual world and performing this pastime is to introduce himself to you again. Because we've forgotten who he is, he's going back over all these details with Arjuna, and Arjuna happens to know who all these personalities are. And if we were born into this culture, we would know. So since we're not born in, we have to learn from the spiritual master all of these personalities and how they fit into the greatest understanding of God and how they enhance our understanding of God so that we can develop our love for God. So here's one thing very simple. Of bodies of water, Krishna says, I am the ocean. I mean, it's just pretty simple stuff. Has anybody been to the ocean? Yeah? Vast, right? Massive. It's unfathomable how big it is. If you ever took a boat, you just keep going on it for weeks, and there's nothing but water in all directions. The ocean is massive. It's beyond your comprehension. You can't understand how big the ocean is. It's not possible. So in this situation, we can understand that of all great, awesome things, God is that. God has created that. And this ocean in this earth here is one of trillions and quadrillions of oceans throughout the universes. He also says of the vibrations, he's the transcendental Omkara, the original sound vibration. It's pronounced A-U-M, like that. So a lot of times when we chant, we always start with Om or Om Agyanatamarandasha or whatever it might be. We start with Om because we want to evoke that original vibration and bring God present to that sacrifice. See, sacrifice, Krishna is called the Lord of Sacrifice. And the reason it is because everything that's created is meant to be offered back to the Lord. It's all been offered to you for your enjoyment. You want to give it back to Krishna out of love. He'll honor that and create prasadam for you. And that prasadam becomes mercy in your life. And so when you take prasadam, you advance in your spiritual life. So everything that you offer, all the food that you offer, should be offered to the Lord. You should recognize God as all of those things. He says here, he is the chanting of all sacrifices. This is one you don't want to forget. Of all sacrifices, he is the chanting of the holy names, japa. So God is the practice of japa. Does anybody have any questions about japa? Japa is the recitation of God's holy names in the Maha Mantra. And we do that every day on beads, right? Does everybody know that? Okay, no questions about that? Okay, so and of immovable things, Krishna says, I am the Himalayas. So when you think of mountains, you think of Mount Everest as the largest or the greatest. So the Himalayan mountains are the largest mountains on the earth, so he identifies with that. He talks about the horse, Uchaishrava, and Aravata, the elephant. You'd have to read those stories. Among men, I am the monarch. He's the king. Of weapons, he's the thunderbolt. Among cows, the Sarabi. And of causes for procreation, he is Kandarpa, the god of love, or Cupid. So, sometimes people are overwhelmed with that emotion that Cupid has shot them with an arrow or whatever. So that emotion, that feeling, that urge, that whatever that is, that's also God. That's also God. Serpents, Vasuki, Nagas, he's Ananta. See, you don't know what a Naga is, but it's a snake, okay? And so the snakes have hoods, and Krishna enjoys that. And you can read that about Sheshanaga and Mahavishnu. So these are foundational principles of the creation of this universe. And they're available for everyone to understand. But a person must make a regular study of these kind of things, along with the chanting and offering of the food, so that they're taking prasadam, associating with the Vaishnavas, and then they can gradually feel themselves advancing in spiritual life. And that higher taste that they get replaces the lower taste for lesser things in your life that are actually vexation to the soul. There's so many things in this life that are distracting. Almost everything you see, if you ride up and down the interstate, every billboard you see will distract you from your spiritual life. Pretty much every store along the side of the road will distract you from your spiritual life. So, and every advertisement you see on television will distract you from your spiritual life. So everything is there to distract you from being able to get liberation and go back home, free the soul from this mortal cage in which it is suffering. Now, you may not be suffering right now, but you know people who are. And just about every week of your life, you hear about something tragic that's just happened to someone that you know or someone in your community. So my point is that there is no guarantee of your safety in this material universe. So you surrender yourself to God, and then God takes up your protection. Ram said in the Ramayana that anyone who lays down their bow and arrow or their instruments of fighting the Lord and surrender to the Lord immediately will protect them. That becomes his favorite pastime, is to please you, is to find ways to protect and take care of you. God loves you just like you love your child. How many of us have children? Okay, almost everybody. So if you know the feeling you have towards your child, that you would give everything you have, you would give your life for that child. You would lay down your own life for the protection of that child. And your very last dime, you would give to a child. If you love the child, and the child is a good child, these are natural emotions and feelings that parents have. Well, God is our Father. He's the seed-giving Father of all creation. Do you not know that he's attached to you? That he loves you and he wants you to come back home? He does. So therefore, he's coming to tell you who he is. He says amongst the Daitya demons, he's the devoted Prahlad Maharaj. Do you know the story of Prahlad? Raise your hand if you know the story of Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah? Okay. Some of us don't. You should look up in the Bhagavad-gītā. I see a hand in the air over here on my screen. Who is that? Did you do that, Rangavati? Huh? You're muted. You must be muted. Okay, whose hand is up? Anybody? Okay. All right. So if you know Prahlad, you will then fall in love with God, because Prahlad is in love with God. And Prahlad offers the most beautiful prayers to the Lord. And the Lord comes to protect Prahlad Maharaj as Nrsimha, as a half man, half lion. You got to read that story. It's just recently, not too long ago, we just had Nrsimha's appearance day, and we were reading this story. It was very wonderful. So, purifiers, and he's the wind. So whenever you feel the wind come, the wind generally blows away all unclean things, right? We noticed that the wind itself can erode everything. It erodes mountains down, just like water can. So that's a very powerful purificational force in the world. So when you see the wind from now on, think of Krishna. Of wielders of weapons, he is Rama. So if you don't know the story of Lord Rama, you got to look that up, because the story of Lord Rama in the Ramayana is available to you on vedabase.io. Or if you'd rather listen to it, you can go to prabhupadvani.org, and you can listen to Amala Bhakta Swami do a beautiful job of reading the Ramayana, and you will cry. Your hair will stand on end. Your heart will melt. You'll get chill bumps when you read the story of Sita and Ram. So you can know God. God has come as Ram. God has come as Sita Ram. God has come as Radha Krishna. And God comes again and again and again and again. Why? To reestablish that relationship with us. So of all of the rivers, of course, he's the flowing Ganges. And if you don't know about the Ganges actually comes down from the spiritual sky to the material world, and it actually pours onto the head of Shiva. So it's very auspicious. You need to read more about the Ganges. Of all creations, he's the beginning, the middle, and the end. And of all sciences, he is the spiritual science of the self. So that's the supreme science, is the spiritual science of the self. To understand, what is my soul? What is it made of? Where does it belong? Where did it come from? Where can it go? Why am I here? What am I doing here? All of these questions have to be answered every day, because he also says, I am all devouring death. I am all devouring death. And I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. So if you don't meet God like we're doing now in his holy name and chanting, you will meet him at death. You will meet God at death. And at that time, whatever your karmic reactions are, etc. and so on, or if you don't have any, all of that stuff will be fulfilled in your next lives. So I wouldn't take any chances with my future, because it's a very dangerous place we're living here. We don't know what our future truly is. So it's best if we can become pure devotees in this life. We can learn to love God. We can spend a little time on the spiritual science of the self like we're doing here. And we can come to know God so much so that we can fall back in love with God. Of letters, I am the letter A. He's inexhaustible time. Of creators, he's Brahma. He's all-devouring death, generating principle of all that's yet to be. He's the fine speech, fortune, fame, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience of women. Of the hymns in the Vedic literature, if you've not read these hymns, you should read the Samaveda. And of poetry, he says he's Gayatri. So the Gayatri mantra, I'm named after that mantra. My spiritual master gave me that name. Krishna says of poetry, I am the Gayatri. So in India, everybody knows the Gayatri mantra. There's many Gayatri mantras, but they chant it morning, noon, and night on the 3 parts of the day. So he describes that he's also flower-bearing spring. But he's the cheat of the gamblers. Gambling of cheats. He's splendor. He's victory, adventure, the strength of the strong. Think about these things. This will make you Krishna conscious. Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, he's punishment. He is Lord Yama, the meter of death, the one who metes out death. Okay? So, furthermore, of secret things, he's silence. And of the wise, he's the wisdom. So if you ever see anybody wise, you know that wisdom comes from Krishna. He's the generating seed of all existences, and there's no being moving or non-moving that can even exist without Krishna. Should we get to know Krishna? Would that be imperative? Should that be taught from the very beginning of everyone's life? Should this be part of the curriculum in your elementary, your grade school, your kindergarten, your high school, your colleges? Should it? Of course it should. Because they're teaching you how to eat and sleep better and defend yourself better, but they're not teaching you anything about the immortal soul. The only thing that will remain when you pass away is the soul, and that soul will go on. The rest of this goes back to the earth. It's not yours. So now's the time to spend our time understanding all this and understand that if no moving or unmoving being can exist without Krishna, should that be a primary study of mine? Should that be the most important one thing I do every day, is try to get to understand Krishna? Because all opulent, all beautiful, all glorious creations are springing from but a spark of the splendor of Krishna. So whatever it is you already like, whatever it is you think is good, whatever you enjoy in this world, whatever whatever you're attracted to, that is Krishna. Krishna consciousness means to acknowledge that is Krishna. And that he's given that to you out of love for you. And that your relationship can start when you begin to offer it back. Just like a little child may receive some kind of, allowance from the parent. So the little child goes, buys the parent something and brings it to the parent. Everything is being provided by the parent. The body that the kid is living in was provided by the parents, through God, of course. The place he's living, the food he's eating, the money he received, everything, but he offered a little bit back. And what does the parent do? Melt. So now you know how to melt the heart of God. Give something back. Give something back. And what need is there for all this detailed knowledge? Krishna says, with just a single fragment of himself, he pervades and supports the entire universe. Any questions? Hello?
I was having a little thought when you mentioned about we'll go on when we pass away, we go on, we leave this body, and this body just goes back to dust because it isn't ours. And I often think about, this body isn't mine. I'm thinking this is my body. I can move it and I can speak, enjoy through the senses that this body gives me. But within this body, there are billions of little entities who are also thinking that this body is theirs. All these different bacteria in my belly, all these things, they're everywhere. And all these viruses that make us ill, they all think this is theirs. So this isn't mine at all.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I read somewhere, now don't quote me on this because not from the Vedas, and stuff that's not from the Vedas, I don't stand behind. But I heard some scientific estimation that there were over 90 trillion living entities living in your body, including viruses and bacteria. 90 trillion living in your body. So yes, you are quite delicious, apparently. And somebody's having a buffet, at your expense. I know a mosquito was having a buffet on me a little while ago, guys, before I came in here. This guy looked at him for a while, man. He just couldn't get enough. And I said, man, you must be hungry. Just go ahead and get all you want. I felt bad for him. They got to eat too, right? So anyway, well, that's exactly right. And everywhere you look, there are living entities permeating everything, including in outer space. There are unlimited living entities everywhere. And we're just one little piece of that greater puzzle. But we can fit into it perfectly well when we know who God is. And Krishna says in the very beginning of this chapter that if you know who he is, that you know he's the source of all the demigods, of all the planets, of all the material and spiritual universes, you're living in a sinless state because you actually understood what you've been missing all these trillions of births that you've been trying to have the perfect family, the best bank account, the biggest palace, the greatest army, the biggest country, maybe your own planet. Who knows what you wanted? You've had it all, and none of it has made you happy. Not really, because you're still hungry, you're still thirsty, you're still desiring the things that you thought would bring you pleasure. And Prabhupada calls that chewing the chewed. If you chew something that's already been chewed, there's no flavor left. Flavor's all gone. So how many times do you have to kind of be smacked around, before you realize that, hey, there is a purpose to this life, and it's my job to get busy with it. So this Bhagavad-gītā, ongoing Bhagavad-gītā study is designed to bring us into that state of self-consciousness or self-awareness of what our situation truly is, that we're a part and parcel of God. We're connected to God through yoga, through Bhakti yoga primarily, eternally, which is a loving, devotional relationship, Sanatana Dharma, and that all of this creation is designed really for our benefit. Everything is designed for our benefit. Krishna has done everything out of love for us. Now we just have to give a little bit back. So any comments, any elucidations, any things you want to add to this? Because we're now at 8:07. Time goes fast, and you're having fun. Susan, thank you for being such a trooper too, Susan, for being here always. We love you so much and appreciate you so much for coming. Jeremiah, we appreciate you. And
I thought I'd unmuted, but I was just talking to myself. I got a little thing that I got out of this that I just thought I'd share.
Okay.
Because of course, we always talk about all the good things,
right?
But in 4 and 5, it also talks about, distress, death, and fear. So I think one of the biggest lessons that I've gotten recently is the negative things are from Krishna as well, so you can learn and grow and see the good in those things. So that's just been my lesson actually this week. So kind of a confirmation of that as well for reading this.
That's really good.
Oh.
Yeah, there was one great incident in the Bhagavatam where they had nothing but trouble, malady after Queen Kunti. More and more and more and more malady. And she asked for more and more because in that state of distress, she could remember Krishna. She could, ask Krishna for protection. She could feel the presence of Krishna in that protection and so forth and so on. So, yeah, even things that we think are negative are only negative if we don't get the lesson out of it.
It's all about perspective.
It is. And consciousness, what is it that we're thinking about? What is it that we do? Who is it that we really want to be? What is our true prime goal and our purpose in this life? And so that is, according to the Vedas, Sanatana Dharma, eternal function of the soul, serve God. So this process of becoming God conscious and hearing all these different stories and how Krishna says you can see me in the ocean. You can see me as the taste of water, the light of the moon, the fragrance in the air, the springtime. All of these things are there for us to be mindful. So what's our next? We got chapter 11 coming right up after this, right? Chapter 11 is next. Oh, and by the way, guys, are we, next week, it's called the Universal Form, is the next chapter, and that is very, very, very descriptive of how you can see God in different ways. So we can become God conscious. You can literally see God with your intelligence in the Bhagavad-gītā. But I'm thinking because it's July the 4th weekend, it's possible that some of us may be out of town. I had thought about skipping next Monday. Is that fit into anybody's mindset at this point? Is that okay? Maybe? All right, well, I'll let you know. We'll figure it out. July the 4th coming. A lot of people going to be out running in all different directions. So, and I might be one of them. You never know. You never know. And if I am, we'll just add it to the next week. All right. So, guys, is there anything else that you guys could add to the class? If not, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I love you all, and I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, and have yourself a blessed evening, and we'll pick it up next time. And Rangavati will be sending you out the invitation. All right? Hare Krishna. Haribo.
Haribo.
Hari.